Dad, after all, we've strayed, and yes, we've been bad. We're thankful
2020 that he does not advocate incest. Yet Deborah claims her father did approach her for sex, and that was the catalyst to her leaving the cult.
My dad was just an evil personality that was not hearing from God at all.
They claim a worldwide membership of about 2,000. They exist on donations of food and clothing and on the possessions of members. The colony has come under attack by some relatives of members who say that hate is preached here, that members are kept against their will, hypnotized, drugged, that parents are not allowed to visit their children.
The Ten Commandments were done away with by the law of Jesus Christ, the law of love. God now only has one law, the law of love, to love God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself.
And I was ordered in the group to have sex with a 10-year-old by the leadership of the group.
Did you?
Yes.
We are back with the ABCs of cults. This cult is probably the worst of them all. A doomsday sex cult with 10 to 12,000 members at its peak. Founded in the 1960s by David Berg, who carried out some of the most horrific cult crimes I have ever learned about.
Don't cover me, babe. Your shadow's hanging over me. Breathe on me. Just breathe on me. And don't cover me, babe. Don't lay yourself on top of me. I don't want us to start again. I'll get it in, I'm not your friend. No.
Originating in California, Children of God was founded in 1968 by David Berg during the height of the hippie era and in the year following the Summer of Love. David, his wife, and their 4 teenage children journeyed to Huntington Beach, a seaside town that had become a gathering place for counterculture youth, hippies, and outcasts. There, he started off teaching Bible classes in a local coffee shop, and he was soon welcoming large numbers of listeners and followers, apparently by using cool, non-conformist language that the youth could relate to.
This place is like Clutopia, Scoob.
David had found his calling, and the Children of God were born. By 1969, the original group had expanded anywhere between 40 to 100 people, and they began travelling on the road in a large convoy of campers across the US, appealing to many people in the places that they visited. A local article from Camden, New Jersey, apparently dubbed them Moses and the Children of God, a moniker Berg would later adopt. In 1970, after nearly a year on the road, the Children of God created their first community in West Texas. Fred Jordan, a radio evangelist in Texas, heard about the movement and invited David and his congregation to live on his land. He allowed Berg and his family to open and run a branch of his soul clinic in Miami, Florida, as a missionary training school. After running into trouble with local authorities over his aggressive disapproval of evolution being taught as fact in public schools, Berg moved his family to Fred Jordan's Texas Soul Clinic in Western Texas. That is, of course, until the charges of kidnapping, brainwashing, and fraud would lead to Fred asking the movement to leave his property. 2,100 members scattered themselves to 40 other colonies. The group merged with the Jesus People Army, which embraced communal living and the hippie movement. The communal living fostered the group's need for sexual promiscuity, and reports of SA and child abuse became known to the media.
Matters of sexual abuse and mind control.
John, April, Caleb, and Tito were trapped and had been for their entire lives in a destructive cult called the Children of God.
This angered Berg, and in 1972 he would move himself and his people from the US to England. David Berg was born in 1919 to a Christian evangelist family. His parents worked as independent pastors and evangelists. Growing up in a religious household, David was often involved in church services and preachings, and by the 1940s he became a missionary for the Christian and Missionary Alliance. He was later expelled from the organisation for apparent differences in teachings and for alleged sexual misconduct with another church employee, although his writings would claim that he was expelled for supporting racial diversity amongst his congregation. Fast forward to the 70s, and in his early years as the leader of the Children of God, Berg finally heard from the big man himself and began to roll out Mo letters.
And then the money comes, and then you're so thankful. But God allows that. He allows the bad or the evil to show you never had it so good.
The Mo letters began around 1975 and were a continuous publication of David's Word of God. The name Mo letters is derived from Berg's nickname, Moses David. These documents were given to followers and contained anything from the prophecies about the end of the world to rules and instructions that members had to follow. Over the course of his lifetime, Berg had reportedly written over 3,000 Mo letters, featuring distinctive yet questionable artwork. Ex-members have uploaded many of these letters to the internet, which I will leave a link to should you wish to peruse and take a look at these policies for yourself. You can learn about exorcisms, contraceptions, and the alleged Nazi regime of Nixon. Glorify God in the Dance was the title of both a Mo letter and a pornographic video produced by Music with Meaning, one of the cult's alternative names. Glorify God in the Dance also was a term used to describe nude dances performed on video by women, teens, and even young children for the pleasure of David Berg. In September 1981, family members at Music with Meaning in Greece filmed 20 adults and children performing pornographic striptease dances for the sexual gratification of David Berg and others.
We were being essentially groomed by a master pedophile, David Berg.
So why did David start this cult? Well, he believed the apocalypse was near, that communism would take over the West, which would see the arrival of the Antichrist in 1970. The rapture would occur in 1993, but the children of God would be recognized as the faithful.
I'm a faithful, 100,000,000%, I promise you.
And enter heaven as one of 144,000. Then, Jesus will come back and establish a new kingdom in Jerusalem, with the children of God serving as rulers for the next 1,000 years. The Children of God members viewed David as God on earth. He urged believers to survive on basic necessities by giving up their money and personal possessions to the group's leaders. The Children of God ignored the traditional family structure, instead favouring being one large family with David Berg at the head of the table. For members of the Children of God, almost all aspects of their daily lives was dictated by Berg's letters, from their assigned jobs to how much toilet paper they should use. One of the more distinctive features for the Children of God was a practice known as flirty fishing. Yes, flirty fishing. Flirty fishing began in London in 1970. Women in the group were to lure new members into the group by means of sexual favours. This was a policy that applied to all women in the group, regardless if they were married or if they had kids. This practice was pushed so commonly, former cult member Sylvia Padilla said that, quote, "A lot of homes turned into pretty much brothels," describing one of the Mo letters that encountered female members to make it pay and charge for sex whilst flirty fishing. Members who brought family growth by attracting new members this way were dubbed as soul shiners, whilst others referred to them as hookers for Jesus. According to the BBC, Berg told members that God was love and love was sex, so there should be no limits, regardless of age or relationship. It was well known that David Berg often shared himself to many women of the cult. People that were asked and refused sharing were called selfish, unloving, and uncaring, and were ostracized from the family until they conformed. Not forgetting that this is a radical Christian group, contraception was a big no in the eyes of David Berg, leading to many women getting pregnant and many children being born directly into the cult. Former member Christina Babin states, "I knew even as a child that I was a prisoner. Whatever country we lived in, and we moved a lot, the strict routines and degree of violence we experienced were the same. Every night I fell asleep in the desperate hope of not wetting the bed, clearly a sign of how disturbed a child is. It was considered by the cult as demon possession and could be beaten out of you. Physical punishment was the only real constant I knew. There was no limit to how far the adults in charge would go. One boy frowned instead of smiling and was thrashed. I saw children thrown through windows and even babies were beaten. Such abuse was followed up by hugs, totally disorientating for a small child. We were told the punishment was because the organisers loved us, and it was for the good of our soul. We were made to thank them. All this abuse existed behind closed doors, and the conspiracy of silence and our ingrained fear of the outside world stopped the truth about what was going on from being discovered by authorities for decades." The exorcism of Mary Berg. Mary Jolene Berg was the daughter of Faith Berg and granddaughter to David Berg. She was severely traumatized by the sexual abuse she received from her grandfather. Her carers sought to deal with this trauma response by performing an exorcism.
When she was about 12. And I remember very clearly Dad talking to us about her coming. And he said, "Look, this is my granddaughter. And I haven't seen her since she was, 1 or 2 years old. And I want to take care of her."
Meanie lives with Berg for 4 years, during which time she suffers several mental breakdowns. Not knowing how to handle her, the family tries non-traditional means.
We believe in exorcism. We believe in laying hands and praying for people, and we did that for her sometimes. And there were times when we did pray for her that she had, for a few months was doing fine, but then she would relapse into it.
Mary would later struggle with homelessness and drug addiction. Friends of hers say that Children of God was to blame. She passed away in 2017. Another member of the Children of God who unfortunately lost their life to drugs was young actor River Phoenix. River Phoenix's experience in the Children of God sect was a significant and challenging part of his early life. Born into a nomadic and unconventional lifestyle, River and his family joined the sect in 1973, when he was just 3 years old. According to a Vanity Fair interview with Phoenix, he was raped by other members when he was just 4 years old. Phoenix says, "I was celibate from ages 10 to 14. Phoenix's parents were deeply involved in the group, and the family travelled extensively as missionaries, often living in communal homes with the other members. The sex environment was restrictive, and the children were expected to participate in the group's activities and teachings. At a young age, River and his siblings performed music on the streets as a means of spreading the group's message and supporting their family. Despite these challenges, River developed a passion for music and performance, which later helped him transition into a successful acting career. The family eventually left the Children of God in the late 1970s, disillusioned with its teachings and its practices. River Phoenix later spoke about his experiences in the sect, describing it as a traumatic and difficult period in his life. The experience left a lasting impact on him. He would lose his life at just age 23 due to a drug overdose. With no shortage of actual children running around, probably due to all the unprotected sex, the Children of God faced allegations of child abuse and exploitation. Former members recounted disturbing experiences, including instances of corporal punishment, neglect, starvation, and forced labour. Members were often moved around and split up from their families, their passports taken away from them whilst they worked in the compounds that they were not permitted to leave.
I'm going to take you guys home with me for a while. All right, you go away.
Who do you guys love?
You go away. Daddy! They love the Lord, okay?
Who is this, you guys? Do we know her? Did she leave you 4 years ago? She left.
You kids, don't worry. You trust the Lord.
Who do you want to stay with?
The children don't want to go. They consider their mother an enemy because she left the cult.
Now, because of the doctrine of the sharing within the cult, unfortunately it means that the sexual activities were not exclusive to the adults in the communities. The tragic case of Ricky Rodriguez is one of the most widely publicized stories of ex-Children of God members. Ricky made this video on January 7th, 2005. He invited Children of God member Angela Smith to his Tucson, Arizona apartment on January 8, 2005. Angela Smith was one of several nannies that sexually abused him as a child, and was even recorded in the cult's controversial book, The Story of Davidito. On January 8, 2005, Ricky Rodriguez slashed Angela's throat, leaving her to bleed out in his apartment. Ricky later drove to a hotel, drank a few beers, then drove a block away and committed suicide with a shot to the head. And Ricky is not the only case of suicide. Former members say they know hundreds of people that took their own life due to the severe abuse they suffered at the hands of Children of God. Growing controversies about the Children of God led to Berg releasing a Mo letter titled "Flee as a Bird to Your Mountain," where he claimed he was contacted by a higher power and prophesied that God was soon going to punish the US and urged his family exodus North America to prevent being caught up in God's wrath. According to a former member in the Washington Post, many were convinced that the US was on the brink of divine punishment and that they would be killed if they didn't leave. Many families spread across the world to South America, Europe, and even as far as Australia. Berg's daughter states, however, the actual reason for the Children of God's getting into gear and leaving the USA was that people were finding out about abuses in the cult, and Berg himself feared he would be arrested. Despite these controversies, the Children of God demonstrated a remarkable ability to adapt and survive.
For those of you who aren't personally acquainted with us, my name is Steve Kelly, and this is my wife, Karen Zerby. We want to wish you and your loved ones a wonderful Christmas and a new year full of God's love, peace, and joy.
By 1977, the Children of God boasted more than 130 communities in an estimated 70 countries around the world. And by 1983, it was reported to have over 10,000 members. The group underwent several transformations and rebrandings throughout the year in order to reshape or save their public image, including calling themselves the Family of Love, Heavenly Music, Music with Meaning, and the Family, before finally settling on the Family International in 2004.
I hold motivational seminars for companies and a wide range of audiences.
One of the projects we do here in Concan is the anti-narcotics program. In Taiwan, I work with the government and charitable institutions to organize events and aid for underprivileged children.
At our studio, we produce music for our worldwide outreach.
I produce a radio show in Uganda.
In the deaf ministry in India, we help educate the deaf and prepare them to enter the workforce.
I'm Ministry in Laws, offering free limb replacement.
I produce educational material for children.
With the death of David Berg 10 years prior, in 1994, the Family International is now under the leadership of Karen Zerby, Berg's former secretary, mistress, and second wife. Her location is actually currently unknown, and she is in hiding, presumed living off what she has collected over the years from the cult members. Survivor stories are still coming out to this day about the Children of God and the Family International, with many trying to shed light and bring about the downfall of this cult. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Don't cover me, babe. Your shadow's hanging over me. Breathe on me, just breathe on me, and don't cover me, babe. Don't lay yourself on top of me. I don't want us to start again. I'll get it in, I'm not your friend. No, when everything's been said and everything's been done, I'll be down the street, all passed out on rum. 'Cause I'm trying to forget you, I'm trying to forget about you.